My story this morning comes out of Marijuana Moment, and the headline is New Jersey State Panel Approves Bill to Address Expungements Backlog Caused by Marijuana Legalization. Now, this story comes out of New Jersey, but it could be written out of here in California. And I'm sure Omar, I'm interested in his comments about this, but we passed a law here in California that required expungements of records. Okay? And the next thing you know, there's a backlog. And the cops are screaming and yelling, "Oh, you're forcing us to do this. We have to think about this. We got to take someone's cannabis out. Maybe we compromised and offered them a cannabis charge as opposed to something else." And the next thing you know, you're not getting anything done. And in New Jersey, they had passed their cannabis law required that you expunge records. And then they have subsequently passed another one, the Clean Slate Act, I think they call it. And these numbers went up to like 50,000 people they had to expunge. And my response is, yeah. When someone calls you, you jump into your military equipment and run down to wherever you have to go. You guys are Johnny on the spot when it's something you want to do. And when it's something you don't want to do, and you drag your feet. And so what we're seeing in New Jersey is that people who should be having their records expunged end up having someone do a background check on them, and they find out, well, I've got a criminal record. And so you can't rent a house, maybe you don't get a job, are getting loans, school problems, getting grants into school. And all these are based upon you still having a criminal record. Now this is, it's personal to me because I've got a felony, and the odds of me getting it off my record are slim and none. I don't see any of the candidates right now looking to, pardon me and expunge my records. So the war on drugs was unfortunately racially based, and it was based upon lies. And so a lot of people got caught up in this net that was thrown out to grab people, especially smoking weed, because you can smell it, it's probable cause, you got wrapped up in stuff, and the cops typically overcharge you. So if you're facing 10 charges and they're willing to give you a cannabis charge and everything else gets dismissed, okay, you take that in a heartbeat. Well, now the argument is that, oh, gee, we had 10 charges against you. You took a cannabis charge. If we just expunge this, it's going to create other problems. We want to do it. It's what we heard here in California. California finally came up with a form. Fill the form out. You send it in. The burden is now on the prosecution to find a reason why they shouldn't expunge this and just move this shit forward. So now we're seeing New Jersey having the same problems. Even though they want to do things for those of us who caught cases and are trying to move forward and suffering the consequences of it, the cops will say, oh, we like what you're doing here. Mm-hmm. That's what they say on this. Somebody from the attorney general, oh, we agree with what you're doing. It's just we don't have the resources. Well, one of my ongoing concerns about cops is they have the resources to do what the hell they want to do. And when it's something they don't want to do, they scream about we don't have the resources to do it. I'm still wondering how much are they still spending on prosecuting people and arresting them for cannabis charges. So this is expungement. It's a mess. I hope that New Jersey can figure this out, because those of us who caught these charges are still suffering from the consequences of being charged and pleading guilty or being convicted of cannabis offenses. I'm going to throw this back at you, and I'm curious what you had to say about this, Omar.
Sure. Thanks for bringing that up. Well, California has solved the problem after quasi-legalization, and initially you had to go to court to get your records expunged. And the only people who could afford it were people who had a lot of time on their hands or had a lot of money so they could pay a lawyer to deal with it. Mm-hmm. We later have now legislative efforts to make it happen, where the legislature directed district attorneys to review their convictions and to put the cases before the courts. And so that is a more burdensome way of doing it. But there's a much easier way to doing it, which is in California law. If you look at Health and Safety Code Section 11361.5, back when cannabis got decriminalized for personal possession back in the 1970s, they passed this law which basically said any record of conviction shall not be considered reliable and shall, not officially exist. Simple. by operational law. And we have an example under California law of how to do that. It's in section 11361.5 of the Health and Safety Code. And so I think that's the easiest way to do it. Instead of requiring individualized expungement of every single case, because that is extremely time consuming and burdensome and doesn't really take effect until it's been done, just pass a law that says that these old convictions count for shit and solve the problem. And we already have that in California. And I think that should be the new trend.
Is that the legal definition, count for shit? That's the proper terminology.
It's right there in the Health and Safety Code.
I think a great way to start fixing this is to stop criminalizing it, right? So it's to stop wronging people, because we still see people being arrested, even in California, unfortunately. We still see people's lives being ruined over a plant. So I think the best way to get this started and start repairing these wrongs that have been done is to stop perpetuating them.
And I think it too, people should understand this. If you have multiple arrests, you need to go to your more serious charge and get that expunged, and then you go down the line on the less serious charges when getting this done.
Well, you still got to have a lawyer to do that. And that's the conundrum you're put in. Is that unless you can afford, I mean, there are still attorneys who do pro bono work, and God love them. Omar and I have done enough. Omar probably doesn't know what I do, but we've done enough pro bono work to help people. But seriously, if you put the burden back onto this person who was convicted, it just slows the process up. It needs to be more automatic. And these background checks, that's where the problem comes up. Someone runs a background check on you, and this continues to show up on your record, even though you're supposed to be expunged. It's just very frustrating. Mm-hmm. And we should absolutely stop putting people in the system for cannabis charges. It should stop. But what you see is deeply entrenched in law enforcement policymakers are people whose mama told them this is bad, it's going to ruin Western society. We got to continue to punish people for this. And so the beat cops don't care about this shit. They got other things to do. The policymakers do. And we continue to fight the policymakers who do not want to recognize that this plant should never have been criminalized. It shouldn't be criminalized today, and we need to stop all this nonsense.
Mm-hmm. On an unrelated note, I think if anybody that's worked in the cannabis industry long enough has done some work that ended up being pro bono.
Literally.
Yeah. Involuntary pro bono is not real voluntary pro bono, but yes, many people do involuntary pro bono.
Oopsie.
At least it's tax deductible, right?
No.
Oh boy, you guys are funny.
You're gonna like my story, too.
Oh boy.
All right. Well, fair enough. Good luck to anyone that is trying to get this done. And there's a lot of resources out there. You can reach out to us if you need some help with that, with resources or whatnot, wherever you reside at. And on that, we're going to go to a commercial. And we're going to be right back.
You can